Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we're going to talk about Gerard Carmichael, and we're going to talk about his comedy special, Rothaniel, and we're going to talk about expectations on an event, on a space, on a time, and what a session is used for and what it's not used for, and a transformation of expectation, and using a session for something different from what was expected. All right, let's get into this. All right, so I'm a dungeon master. You're a dungeon master. The expectation is that we sit down at the table and we tell a story with all the players, and a goblin's going to get cut in half, and we're going to have fun. Right? That's the expectation. Right? That is the 51%, of the world. When they think about a D&D session, that's the expectation. And that's what a dungeon master is expected to use that time for. But I want to talk about Gerard Carmichael's recent special, Rothaniel. All right, so let me talk about my journey to this. So I listened to a woman by the name of Grace Randolph. She's the best movie reviewer in the world. She is so far ahead of every other movie reviewer, like Chris Stuckman. He's not worthy to clean her shoes, right? Like when it comes to movie reviews, like she's such a they're not even in the same league, right? So, but she was talking about coverage of the Golden Globes, and she talked about Gerard Carmichael as the host, right? And he was there to make everybody laugh, right? And she said, I liked his latest special, Rothaniel, right? And I was like, oh, hey, I know Gerard Carmichael. He had a 3-season, I think David Greer was on it. It was a 3-season situation comedy. So Gerard Carmichael, I watched 3 seasons of Gerard Carmichael's show, and I watched Gerard Carmichael in a bunch of other stuff. I've been following for maybe 5 or 10 years, and I like his comedy, right? So I was like, okay, Grace Randolph just said that his comedy special is good. I'm going to go watch it. So I did. So first thing is I had to determine where it was at. So I went to, so I found out it was HBO Max. That should have been a trigger right there. That should have warned me something was going to go south, right? So here's what happened, right? I go over, because my son says, he's like, I'll watch television. My son says, why every time I watch what you're watching, everything's gray, right? There's no color and no one's laughing, right? And I was like, oh, yeah. And he was right. Like, I watch a lot of stuff on HBO Max. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of sad stuff, right? And I had to admit, I was like, yeah, he's got a good point about this. So at this point, I was like, okay. So I go over to watch this comedy special. And that's what it's supposed to be, right? About Gerard Carmichael called Rothaniel. Now, nothing in Rothaniel... Now, this is my opinion, right? Nothing in Rothaniel will make anyone laugh. There are no jokes in it. It is an hour-long special of Gerard Carmichael coming out. And this is undebatable. There are sections of it that are deeply sad, right? In fact, I think Gerard might actually cry in the thing. And if he doesn't, he definitely is crying from his soul. Like it is a deeply, deeply sad hour that is completely disconnected from comedy in every single possible way, in my humble opinion. So I'm like, oh man, I came here for a comedy special, and this seems like an incredibly this seems like really a session that maybe Gerard should have had with his therapist, right? Rather than me, right? And so I don't want to finish this because this isn't my experience. I'm not LGBTQ, and I really, I never come to Gerard Carmichael being like, hey, can you make me sad, right? And so I didn't want to finish it, right? And so. But this links with another theme. I've been very frustrated with the OGL 1.0 creators and with the OSR community because this OGL 1.1 2023 Dungeons & Dragons leak, right? I feel like there's a bunch of ingratitude and there's no goodwill being extended to Hasbro and OGL 1.0 creators and OSR community, in my humble opinion, owe Hasbro a lot. And I mean a lot. Not a little. I mean like a freaking a lot. right? And there's a level of ingratitude, right? And people are like, oh, I paid you $50 for my book, and that's it. That's just all transactional. And I'm like, money's for schmucks. Money is for schmucks, right? You don't get to play like you ain't like half your brain is gone. You're a dungeon master, or you're an engaged Dungeons and Dragons player if you're here, right? And you don't get to play this noise, right? I feel the modern champions, the modern elites understand that debts are owed. And you owe a debt to Hasbro for guarding Dungeons and Dragons from 1999 to 2022 and 23 years. And D&D would not be on Stranger Things. We wouldn't have a franchise coming, a global movie franchise coming. We wouldn't have 2 seasons of Legends of Vox Machina. We wouldn't have Matthew Mercer. We wouldn't have Critical Role if it weren't for Hasbro. And all this firestorm was ingratitude, disrespect, and inappropriate, right? Now, I didn't want to watch Rothaniel. I wanted to check out and go elsewhere. I was 5 minutes in. I was like, man, I do not want to finish this, right? But I was like, you know what? You're going to stay and you're going to finish this. And you know why? Because you owe Gerard Carmichael. He gave you 3 seasons of joy, right? You enjoyed every single one of those episodes, and you enjoyed him in multiple movies, right? He's given you maybe 20 to 50 hours at minimum of joy. Can you give him an hour of your time and attention? Yes, I can. So I finished it, and here's where we land. He used a comedy special to do no comedy and to work out his own personal issues over being LGBT and the drama that caused with his family, right? You would think that going there for a comedy special, I would be disappointed or even upset. That's not the case. I'm intrigued. You know why? He broke expectation, right? And he kept me there for the entire time, and he gave me something to think about, and I walked away with something valuable, right? Gerard Carmichael is no longer a comedian, no longer a Hollywood celebrity to me. He's a human being, and I know his journey, and I know something very personal about him, right? I didn't laugh a single time during Rothaniel, but boy did I think, and boy did I feel, right? I'm an evangelical Christian, right? So what is my response to an LGBTQ person sharing what they're saying? Jesus told me what my response is. People are human. We should try to relate to them. We should try to understand them, right? We should have respect for them. If we owe them a debt, we should pay it, right? And I owed Gerard Carmichael a debt, right? He had brought 20 to 50 hours of joy into my life. I owed finishing this special, hearing him out, hearing what he had to say, right? And this is the part that gets me, is like the OGL 1.0 creators and the OSR community, they don't want to acknowledge debts they owe. They don't want to acknowledge debts they owe. They owe a debt to Hasbro. They don't like that, right? They don't want that to be talked about, right? But they do owe a debt. They're a copy culture, and they owe a tremendous debt. Both of them. Retro, clone. What do you mean? What do you think that means? It means copy, right? OGL, open gaming license, means everything you just created is using a bunch of material from somebody else. You owe a debt, right? And so what I'm really fascinated with is Gerard Carmichael used his comedy special to do something that had nothing to do with comedy. Can a dungeon master do this? Can a dungeon master say, okay, the expectation is that we're going to cut a goblin in half, and I'm going to tell you a fun story. But what if I change your life? What if I give you wisdom? What if I solve a problem? What if I life coach you? What if we share something meaningful together? What if fun isn't the purpose? What if we're going to catapult beyond fun? What if we're going to do something real? What if we're going to do something meaningful? What if we're going to do something that is not expected? What if this session is not what you thought it would be, but is something 100 times more, right? And comedy is already here. Gerard Carmichael is not the only one doing this, right? Dave Chappelle is a philosopher king. That dude is standing in front of a brick wall with a microphone. He is no longer doing comedy. He is massively commentating on the culture of America, politics, culture, and he is changing lives for the better, I would say, right? do we, as dungeon masters, have the courage to go where Gerard Carmichael went, to go where Dave Chappelle went, and say, what if we take this space where you expect nothing and we do something real with it? Right? What if we transition from fun to meaning, from impersonal to personal, right? I'm very interested in that. Gerard Carmichael achieved it. I think we can achieve it as dungeon masters. That's my humble opinion. Every word you just heard is my humble opinion. I'm eager to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.